Thank you so much, David. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
No, it really sounds like we've just eaten. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, well, you need to be a bit energetic. Before I get to introduce my panel, we just know the names that are in front here, but we don't know who is who in front. So I'll ask them at a later stage to just introduce themselves, a brief background, who they are. But I just wanted to quickly try to see if we remember something from what our council presented earlier on, because that was an introduction to this panel discussion. So I have 3 gifts that I'm going to give out. Of course, I'm learning from you guys because you are giving out gifts to speakers, just as we do at showers. So I have 3 gifts that I'm going to give out to 3 individuals who give correct answers to the 3 questions that I'm trying to ask here. Who remembers what council said on what the current state is on procurement, indigenous versus non-indigenous people, in terms of percentages? Anyone remember? Yes, ma'am.
About 60-40.
60-40? The current one, the current state. Anyone to assist?
80-20.
Sorry? 80-20, closer, but you're not close. If you could just please raise up your voice so that everyone can hear. Exactly. So we are at 87, that's the 9 indigenous, and 13 for the locals, which is a huge problem, right? So winner number 1. Okay? So, coming to 60-40. What is it exactly? When we say 60-40, what are we talking about? 60-40. Are we talking about the presidency? Is this a way of choosing a president now in Malawi? What is it? 60-40. Anyone? Yes?
When you are awarding contracts, at least the 60% should go to the indigenous and the 40% can go to the rest.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well summarized down, but tukumbukire mzimelana na cancer. Gender wenda kuno kwambiri. Kudos. Final question. What would improve? Just one thing. What would improve if the country adopted the 60-40? What would change? Just one, yes.
We could create more jobs for local Malawians.
Give more jobs to Malawians, right? Does it always another?
Yes.
Okay. So never say that to one nanny big gift teacher. What should I give them?
Give them a hug.
Okay. So the best gift that I'll give to you, you have just elected the female chair president. I'm called chairperson, but the female president. So you guys will have the gift of or an opportunity of taking a picture with her. Yeah. But please do remember to pay for your photos. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks David. He already introduced me, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on myself. But I'll just ask my panelists to just quickly, briefly introduce yourselves. Yes, we know the names that were called in front, but we don't know who is who. And I don't know if we have a spare mic, or I'll just have to borrow you. Okay, so I'll just start right close to me. If you could just quickly give us your name and a brief of your background in terms of where you're working.
Good afternoon. I am James Chiusi, Executive Secretary for the Small and Medium Business Association. In short, we call it SIMBA. This is an association that lobbies and advocates for issues to do with challenges or general business issues affecting SMEs in Malawi. We are a national-based organization. It's a paid-up organization. Thank you very much.
I'm Peter Maganda. I work as Capacity Development Manager in the Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets Authority. I think most of you know the authority as the organ of government responsible for the regulation monitoring and oversight of public procurement and disposal of assets activities. Thank you.
I am Sondo Mandise. I am the Dean at the Faculty of Law, but I also am a partner at Conferenc Camps. Everyone calls me Fundis, which just means teacher. So I love my job. That's why I love being called Fundis. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is John Gavito. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Yeah, afternoon.
My name is John Gavito and I'm from Kama. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A big hand for my panelists here. We are going to try to dissect a topic on the practicability of 60-40 concept law on competitive bidding, contract preparations, and contract management for SMEs. And this topic, I think we got a very good introduction from the presentation we had, but also I saw that the Honorable Minister also touched a bit on the topic as well. And I think we are going to share what we know and what we think should be our experiences moving forward. And let me just start with my panel, and especially from the SMEs representative. Do you think that this is an answer that you may have been looking for a very long time? You know the statistics that we talked about, 87-13. Is this the answer?
Yes, definitely this is an answer. For years, I think ever since Malawi attained independence, and probably even to prior years, the business has not been very equitably shared. To the extent that most of our business people, mostly Malawians, or the idea, especially the SMEs, have not gotten a fair business cake. What has happened is that if I were to talk about SMEs, it has really been very difficult, at times almost impossible, for SMEs to get big business. Especially in the public sector. This has led to SMEs failing to grow. If at all we get some business, has been really very minute. I remember that last year it said that government business to the business sector was about 600 billion. But I think what actually went to the local business person was actually less than 100 billion. So we can see that this cake has not been shared. So we believe that this law is actually going to plug those holes because revenue has not been forthcoming the way we would have wanted it. We would have wanted our SMEs to grow, starting from the micro to the medium, but it's failing. In the few instances where we have been lucky to get businesses, payment has also been a very huge hurdle, such that some SMEs have actually closed shop, others have really fallen down because it has been very difficult to get payment, apart from getting the business itself. Mm-hmm. So we believe in the law, that if really implemented, and we believe that it will be implemented, because we have the people here who implement it, we think that, yes, it is going to solve most of the problems that the SMEs have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chunguti. Let me go to Mr. Maganga. From experience, from the ground, what do you think is failing the local suppliers in terms of competing in the environment that we are in, where there is no this kind of preferential treatment that we're talking about right now? What is failing us, Mr. Maganga?
Thank you. First and foremost, I think Malawian suppliers have a big problem in terms of perception. They think you get business mostly through connections, and this bidding process, bidding approaches, looks to be way off what they think should be the way to go. You find that from experience, if a tender is floated, the number of local as in indigenous black Malawians participating in such tenders is very, very low. But there are a lot of Malawian businesses, and you find that a lot of people like me, when I work for the PPT, is there you can assist me to get a contract? What contract? So the level of participation is low because firstly they believe that they can get businesses through shortcuts. Number two, there are a number of Malawian suppliers who feel bidding is for the big guys, not the small scale business persons and the like. And thirdly, probably the requirements within the bidding process that the suppliers ought to be registered, suppliers ought to pay taxes, suppliers ought to do this. They feel that is too much on their part, and so they shun from this bidding process. Even those, and this is the fourth point, that have tried to participate in bidding, find that their approach to doing things is not the right one. Most of them prepare very short bids just by reading or just by getting hold of a bid. You find that probably it is clear that it was prepared in a hurry. Most of the documentation is not there. Even what is there is poorly done. Maybe others have prepared the bid this thick, theirs is 3 pages, and so on and so on. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it could be lack of understanding or still looking at business as something that is gotten through connections rather than preparing good and competitive bids. So we have a problem, and it ought to be tackled holistically if we want to achieve the 60-40 that we are advocating for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Makanga. Let me also, I'll go to the legal perspective and I'll go to Dr. Madisi shortly. But I just wanted to quickly mention that I've interacted with Mr. Makanga, great wisdom from him on procurement issues. If we're going not to hit our target of 40 minutes that I've been given, there are 3 people that you have to blame. Myself, Mr. Makanga, and my brother at the fine, Mr. Capito. We talk a lot too much. So I just wanted to say that I know my people here, and sometimes we can be uncontrollable in terms of the way we try to talk. So David, please remind me of the time if I'm getting out of hand. You mentioned something very important that I wanted to pick up and throw it to Dr. Madisi, on the fact that sometimes it seems there is a bit of an overwhelming task that the local suppliers think they have to go through. They have to be registered, they have to prepare these big, complex bids. Is this something that we need to address legally, Dr. Madisi, so that we motivate the local procurement players, so to say?
Thank you. I would say yes. And my point would be give you a legal maxim. So the legal maxim says that equality is equity, meaning equality is fairness. But on the flip side, equality is not equity. Meaning that if you treat people who are not equal as if they were equal, then what you end up is having something that is unfair. And a good example would be that to expect most people who are in the SME category to fully understand how to fill up a bid document is a tall order. Because they cannot just compete. They cannot even understand the document itself. They cannot even interpret what the bid document is all about. And so I do agree with when he says that people will present a proper document and then there'll be a thin document. But it is also an issue about investment. People don't want to invest into skills. So you will find that those people who are prepared in that thick document, most likely they have not even prepared the document themselves. They have employed someone who should do it.
Yeah.
In most of our times in our businesses, we want to do everything together ourselves. And like he has rightly said, the bid is supposed to be submitted at 5 p.m. You start working at 12 12 noon.
Yeah.
So you're running up and down, and you just throw things around and you think it's going to work. But I also think the other issue is an issue of capacity. Apart from the technical capacity, is the financial capacity. So for example, when they say you should go and get a bond, you should go to a bank, and all those things, you will find that most don't have that capacity. So on that, I would agree that maybe the law needs to have a regime in which it is not treating everyone the same. Currently, unfortunately, in terms of the legislation, the requirements, even the way you do your tax clearance, it assumes a certain levelness, which is not true. So I would agree with you in summary that yes, the law may have to be to look at the different categories and maybe make it a little bit easier. Not that they should get away with it, but make it a little bit easier for them to be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll come to my brother, Mr. Gabito, shortly, but I wanted to come to council. In the presentation, you said it's the same standards for everyone. Yes, it's preferential in the terms of 60-40, but going to what is expected of the suppliers, it's the same. And maybe there are worries from the local suppliers in terms of meeting those standards, those requirements. Is there anything that we can do?
Thank you very much, Teresa. Indeed, when I was making the presentation, I emphasized that the duty of the supplier as either an IBM or MSME still remains the duty which he owes under the general principles of procurement. Issues of performance, for example, the same principles like value for money, you are not expected to underperform merely because you are being treated preferentially. The preferential treatment is not in the sense of downgrading the standards, but the entry for you to be given an opportunity to be a player and to be able to compete. So that's what is the law as we are talking now. But maybe it can be food for thought. Since the purpose of the law is to facilitate, not to defacilitate the participation. So maybe if we can categorize based on maybe understanding, maybe if we can do some affirmative action, for example, the forms, since we're dealing with illiteracy issues, maybe translate them in the language that is palatable to the supplier at that level, maybe as an illiterate person, so that at least they can get the gist. But to reduce the standard in terms of performance and the like, I think it may bring maybe issues. Yeah, unless there is an objective test that can apply across the board, not to select that this particular person, otherwise everyone will come with his own idiosyncrasies like biases and weakness. So since my weakness is there, then let's do away with this. Then the law will stop regulating and no longer be predictable as to know how to treat who at what level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gabito, you protect the rights of consumers. In other words, you're protecting the rights of Malawians to access a proper good service. I just wanted to know, does it worry you when we are saying SMEs have all these challenges, but at the same time we're thinking of giving them access to government business at 60%, which is quite a huge number to move from 13%. Are you worried in terms of the quality of goods or services we're going to get?
Yeah, no, thank you. Is there any sanitizer?
Oh, sanitizer?
Sanitizer been using
Yes, please.
Maybe I can speak.
He's protecting the rights of a consumer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
We're using the same microphone.
Yeah, not true. That's very true.
So I must explain. Okay, send this.
Yeah, we shouldn't forget that we're still in the COVID era, right? Yes, please. So remember to sanitize now and then. Mask if possible. And I can see, I think it's just 1% of us in here.
Yeah, Teresa was talking about that. I and her have got a virus. That was the moment we see a microphone, we want to eat it. And it's true. The 40 minutes that I think is allocated to us is for me. You guys are smoking now. But I'll begin with by saying that I think if we want to know our future, we should also know the past. Do we know who started with the procurement law in Malawi? The people that were gurus in procurement. Does anybody know them?
Any idea?
I don't want you house to do anything, but I'm asking these buyers. Because we used to call you buyers then. You just became procurement specialists yesterday, but you were buyers. Now, do you know who were the gurus then? The guy that I think he drafted the law, the procurement law in Malawi. You don't know them? I can see everybody's young here.
Yeah.
But I was also young then. But I was part of that team, and you should give me respect. The guru was Mr. Garimoto and Mr. Mangulama. Yes. And let's have a minute of silence because all these, I think, are in heaven now. But they're seniors. They need the respect because they're the guys that I think started with the old procurement act that has gone through changes. I was one of the members of that act. And I'm surprised when I was talking to the
You asked for a minute of silence, so I thought we were going there.
Yeah, please, a minute of silence for Mr. Mangulama and Mr. Garimoto. Yeah, thank you so much. Rest in peace. Now, we have these regulations as presented by the council. And I think when we look at the intention of the 60-40, nobody would argue, not even anybody in the rural area would argue that this is a very good attempt to address the inequality that we have had. Comparing with the old law, when we were doing the old law, we had also suggested the same, but everybody was busy at that time to make sure that we have at least an act of parliament to replace the other laws, and hence we did not include this. But I think, as you are aware, I think the council, when he was presenting earlier on, he did also touch on a number of instruments under the human rights, under various human rights instruments, that there is need to protect the most vulnerable people. And also we have what is called the aid effectiveness, which also does present a number of actions that are supposed to be done at country level. So this is one way of trying to harmonize our laws or adopt them or domesticate them to make sure that they're able now to be enjoyed by the many poor and vulnerable Malawians. The reason why you and me go and vote, we don't go and vote just to please anybody. We go and vote that we would want to see our lives change. And one of it is this procurement area. As somebody said in the council, I remember, talked about 70% of our, that was Mr. Hausi. 70% of our business in Malawi is done through procurement and with government. So government happens to be the biggest deliverer of services that I think consumers can can benefit from. But since we became a republic or from one party state, not even from one party state, I would say an independent country, have we benefited from anything that government does in Malawi? The answer is no. Yes, others have benefited and others have lost out. And I think the majority of you have never benefited from that. Today I am happy to be here also to just to brief you, give you a brief. That people like you, somebody was talking about you are professionals in your area. But what I see you not becoming professionals is the system that we have in this country that is going to derail anything that we are trying to achieve under this law. or these regulations. Because what it means for you to say, who am I? Do you know the word, who am I? The word, who am I, is said by you. Oda mnapeleka kwa anduna, induna ya kwa mini. Or, amine mwayo. Wale pera wadi, mwina anali wajipani. Nde zamudera. Nde ama kufunsa nchwana polisi, unabudi. Are you the one you gave an order to this of about 300 million? Then you say, who am I to say no to the president? So you are, who am I? I look at you, who am I? The power that you have is huge. But I'm telling you, the purpose, the way you deliver your services is so weak. And I still believe that I think you can do better. But I doubt. We cannot rate the current government, but let's look at what happened in UDF. Let's rate what happened in DPP, the other DPP. Let's rate what happened in PP, and then the current one. I've met 3 guys from your profession who are now in court. But these guys made me suffer. Made me suffer. Am I not a black indigenous Malawian? But they made me suffer to get an order. I went there for about 10 years. Mr. House knows that I've been told to change my name every time for registration. Because I'm a bad guy with any government. Therefore, I need to change my name.
30 seconds now.
Okay, I think so. Therefore, I keep on saying that I think what we have got to do here, one is that of capacity. The council talked about BBE. BBE in South Africa was intended to help Malawians. If we have BA, or IBM, and then we have not been able to develop systems like, for example, the financing, to make sure that people have got access to finance, it will be a total failure. Gupta in South Africa went through the BBE in South Africa. Until today, no Malawian has made money. It was the same Indian guys that we are trying to run away from here, that will come through me, and they get an order through me, and they'll be able to supply, and it will be joint capital. But me, I will still remain in Tata. Now, I'm saying that this particular process that we are doing, a law is nothing. But I think implementation and the practicability of it is what I think we are looking at. How best do we do that? When you read the law, you don't find the financing mechanism. When you read the law, you don't find anything that can be able to help and build the capacity of the ordinary Malawian to be able to get an order and be able to supply. You cannot borrow money from a bank to supply an order where somebody is going to pay you after 1 year. And that's the challenge that we have with government. All I'm saying is that I think we need to look at this law just like the way we look at the Bible. But it is not going to change the lives of Malawians if the attitude, the behavior in government will still remain the same. And that's the challenge that I have, and that's the challenge that I think we need also to discuss in this room. Be honest. You cannot, refuse to accept instructions from the president, from the minister.
There will be a second debate, so to say, or panel discussion that will specifically tackle these issues. Maybe you should consider him as a 4th or 5th panelist on there too. Political influence in procurement. But this is a huge subject, and I know that several people from your profession have been put in very awkward positions because of political influence. So it's something that we need to discuss. But still, there's a person that I had asked, Mr. Kapito, are you worried in terms of the service, the quality of the service that will come from the indigenous suppliers? And I'll say that in 30 seconds, and I'll go to Dr. Matisa again before I take questions.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor is here. Mr. Taylor, I've told you several times that we have. The services that we get from you guys, I think is quite bad. The products, the services, the quality is questionable. Just look at the road. Go and see the road. Go and see the type of even laptops, the one that they bring in, they will buy 40, and you look at them, they can only wait for about maybe 6 months, and they're gone. Now we are worried, and we have talked about the quality of products that you bring in. And I know you are under influence of cash, you are given cash, you are given money. It is a process then. To compromise on quality. The issue about compromising on quality, you know it better. There is an inflow beside it.
I'll give everyone a chance to ask questions and push back on what Mr. Kapito has said. But let me move on to Dr. asked a question that we didn't answer. Are we being over-ambitious, giving 60% of this opportunity to the indigenous black Malawians? We are saying specifically black Malawians. Are we being over-ambitious, considering the challenges that we have highlighted?
Unfortunately, I would have to say yes. But before I give my explanation, I just want to say that it feels nice to be in a conference where I'm facing people who are not lawyers, but also who are verified like lawyers. Because procurement officers, everyone verifies you. So somebody said you don't have power. No, you have a lot of power. So the same way they verify you, they verify us. The only difference is you have more power than us. But yes, coming back to the issue, I think I would say yes. I would say yes for now. But I would say that, the law usually has to regulate conduct for a good number of years. So the law is giving us a chance to do well. But I think, as Mr. Capito has rightly said, the quality of the services is pretty bad. I mean, I've heard of situations where people are given a contract and the first thing they do is buy a PX and Kuzipe Pesa. So it is a mind change that we need to change. The issue of quality, somebody gives you a sample which looks good. When they are going to deliver the real product, it's substandard. So we need to change, because otherwise we're going to put this, as Mr. Capito says, the buyers at a difficult situation. Because soon they'll be blamed that you're not buying enough from Malawians. But the quality will not be there. The dedication, the zeal, and the technical capacities will not be there. So I would say for now, it will be ambitious. And I think in the short term, the chances are we will not see a lot of Malawians coming through. But I think with time, it will be there. And I think the law should stay the way it is. Thank you.
Before I just take questions, I'll give 30 minutes to my other two panelists and exclude Councillor Lenga. But quickly, from a practical side, from experience, Mr. Maganga, do you think that we can really achieve this 60-40 concept that we're talking about in just 30 seconds from a practical point of view?
Yes, with time, you also note that there is only so much that a procurement law or procurement guidelines can do. The complaint raised by Mr. Capito about financing is very, very pertinent, and we would implore on other players to do their part too. On the procurement side, we have come up with regulations, we have come up with an order. The simplification of the bidding process that Dr. Majid referred to, we are trying as much as we can do to make sure that the indigenous black Malawian, the SME down there, they get the contracts, or at least they should give it a go. So also expect that the suppliers and contractors on the other side should give it a good go, not just waiting for contracts to find them. They should give it a good go, but other players like the Reserve Bank probably and the like should also come up with mechanisms which would ease access to finance for the small and medium-sized enterprises.
Thank you so much. Let me move to Mr. Chiwoti. You have been challenged here. Substandard products or services, financing, yes, is a challenge. But if 60-40 or this provision became fully implementable, if it became operational now, would you be able to meet that challenge?
To be honest, yes, we have issues, we have setbacks, we have capacity lapses in the SME sector. But who says that a baby grows at 99 years? It doesn't grow at 99 years. A baby grows at 1 and moves 1 foot, 2 feet, and so on and so forth. So what we are saying here is that we're not saying that today that the SMEs can supply 60% quality that is 100%. I don't think any country has grown like that. Even if we talk of China, the Malaysias, they have not done that. We will agree that some 5-6 years back, there was a lot of talk about poor Chinese products, but we all have seen how the Chinese have made it. So if our SMEs are well supported in all sectors, from capacity in technical, developing our TVETAs, developing our financial sector to fully support the SMEs, we would definitely come there. We would definitely give the country the quality that it needs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chiwusi. And Council Mlenga, just quickly, in case this law becomes operational, or at least these regulations that support an existing law become operational, and for some reason, not because of the procurement guys, but for some reason the SMEs are not able to apply for contracts, and the procurement people are not able to meet the 60-40 requirement, is the blame on them? This is the law, and they are not able to meet that, not because it's their challenge, but simply because the SMEs or Black indigenous Malawians have not come forward. Who are we going to blame?
Thank you very much. On who we have to blame, then we need to do a diagnosis again as to where the problem, because at first we are saying the law is not protecting the indigenous Black Malawian enough, and the law has been transformed, but things are not changing. So it means if you apply scientific formula, it means the problem was wrongly diagnosed. Yeah, but just to add that within the two instruments, we envisaged that possibility that it may not be possible to identify a successful bidder with IBM or MSME, and we have put safeguards within the law to say that maybe you can allow a non-MSME or an IBM to come in. That's why we put the incentive of 5% reference margin, so that it should also benefit not as an IBM, not as an MSME, but something in between.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we.
So they are protected.
We create the partnership.
Okay.
So in the end, we still want to maintain the spirit of the intention of the law.
Right.
That is to promote the MSME. That's why we said get an MSME along, partner with him, so that yes, we should not lose it all, merely because of capacity. Thank you.
Brilliant. I'll take some 2 or 3 questions. We are running out of time, but yeah, I see a couple of hands. I'll take one at the back. Any lady? And yes, please. Do we have a separate microphone? Yes, please. Thanks. And I will give a special treatment to Madam President at the end. If you could stand and state your name and ask the question. Please don't take long.
My name is Christopher Awaro. Just 2 questions or observations. On the practicality of 60-40, what comes to my mind is the fronting of indigenous Black Malawians. How shall this be safeguarded? And as a regulator, what is PPDA doing about this? Because we are much aware of fronting whereby non-indigenous Malawians front Black Malawians. Secondly is, in most cases, the reason why SMEs fail to get businesses is because there are instances whereby SMEs source prices from the same non-indigenous Black Malawians. Now, if it is a tender that you are evaluating a source and a customer, you will definitely find that the source would be more cheaper than the SME. And the other thing is, we need to be honest here. There are some of our brothers who have got SMEs who are only interested in making supersonic profits. The prices that actually they charge is out of the world. Some of them even they get an order and they sell it to the indigenous Black Malawians. How do we safeguard these aspects? Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's a hand here, and then I'll come to the lady. There was a hand there. I hope my panelists, you are noting. There's a question to PPDA, and I think the other one, anyone can really take them on.
Thank you. My name is Rex Kuyeri. The first question I had, I think, has been tackled by my colleague there regarding Malawians, from private experience, selling their orders to Indians and basically becoming their employees in the process. So, yeah. Secondly, I think the other issue is the issue of the 20% preference. Come from the sector where we serve, I'm at Center Medical Stores, we buy to sell to the hospitals. This 20% preference, who is going to finance it? So there's a 20% real preference. What it means is we get these products at 20% higher in most cases than where we get it in an open tender. And then the last question is on timelines. Probably, as it was said, there's a period where you allow a child to grow. Is the SME law open-ended? Will there come a time where we say, no, we have given you enough support, now on your own and another compete? Thank you.
Thank you. And then there's my lady in front.
Thank you very much. I'm Benedetta Maile. I'm looking at the practical side of the law. Are we able to categorize these SMCs into categories that they're able to participate in each kind of business? There are some SMCs that are well established and others that are not. And in certain businesses, you need a lot of capital to participate. And there's no way I can tie my capital in a business I'm not sure that I'll be able to get it. For example, I need to register my company. I need to apply for some licenses. I need to be to indicate that I'll be tax compliant. I need to have a bid security. I need to have access to internet in case I need to submit my bid through internet. And I need also the same internet maybe to access to the tenders that are on the run. Are we thinking more about this, that we are maybe asking a tall order from a small, medium and a small business person? I think maybe we need to, at least for the time being, give a chance for these businesses to grow, and thereafter maybe be asking for more. Why should I invest 200,000 just at the beginning of the business when I'm not sure I will get the business? I wanted to understand if the law is accommodative and also other participants in the industry, if they can be able to accommodate these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the final question or comment from Madam President.
Thank you very much. I'm Alina Femalisawa. Mine is a comment, or rather a question to BBTA. I think you've seen from the panel discussion, for this to be implemented effectively, there's a need for proper understanding between the SME themselves as well as the procurement professionals. So I want to, out of interest, are there plans or have the SMEs been, are they aware of how this is going to be applied and what is expected of them? And supplementary to that, in terms of consultancies, are consultants also in this law? Have we taken care of them? And are they also aware of what is expected, and are the procurement professionals aware of how they expected to implement that in as far as consultancies are concerned? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So much for those 8 or so questions. Let me begin with PBDA. There are a couple of questions coming your way. Fronting of Black Malawians, expectations. What are the expectations for SMEs, procurement, or consultants? Yeah, if you could take those.
Thank you, Teresa. The starting point is that on the issue of fronting, both the regulations and the SME order has taken full care of that, in that it has been made an offense, and should it be discovered, the culprits shall be taken to task there are fines. There is debarment on the part of the suppliers as well, and even up to fines at personal level. If an individual played a huge part in facilitating the fronting, or if you awarded a contract to a company with the full knowledge that it has just been fronted, as a procurement officer, you also be committing an offense. So the fines that have been used are the ones in the regulations. Regulations in broad, the Act in particular, the Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets Act, says that if a person is found in conflict or in violation of the regulations, they shall be fined 500,000 kwacha. So that's the starting point, and the other penalties only come in later. That's it about fronting. I will also attempt the other questions. There is the issue of the source and the one who gets the price from the source competing. So enterprise A is not manufacturing, it orders goods from enterprise C, but they are also competing for the same contract on the market. What would you do in such cases? This is one of the things that we ought to train our suppliers and contractors. As much as possible, they should avoid obtaining quotes from possible competitors. So they need to map up a proper supply chain and probably go beyond, way beyond this normal source that you see, this normal source that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, so that you can at least manage to offer a more competitive price. Obviously, if I get a quote from a competitor, I'm bound to fail. On timelines, I think Dr. Matisse had already indicated that when you are coming up with a law, you are looking into the future. Really, you cannot mark to say this is for 10 years, this is for. But I think what is key is that the PPTA will be there. The people you see today, Mr. House and others, will not be there, but the PPTA will be there. And they will be reviewing the situation constantly, monitoring, and at the end of the day, modifying certain provisions to make sure that they are also congruent with times. So there's no marked time to say this preference margin shall only be valid for 5 years or for 10 years, and like there's nothing of that sort. Categorization, yes. Some broad categorization for the time being is indicated in the regulations and even in the order, but with time it might get widened further. We are looking at items that are easy for Malawians or indigenous black Malawians or MSMEs to offer in the meantime, and those ones would easily be covered, like simple items like stationery, simple works like landscaping and the like. They have already been captured to say these ones are the possible candidates for award to SMEs and indigenous black Malawians in the meantime. But really with time that categorization is likely to get bigger and bigger.
There was a question on what if SMEs know what is expected of them, procurement or consultants?
Do they know that there is this order who conduct awareness campaigns? Already some consultative meetings were held. some business groups were already invited. Mr. Chiusi here will attest to that. But we intend to go even further than the present situation. In fact, as a starting point, we intend to go to the districts, meet the business community at district by district, trading center by trading center, bring up this awareness program. We intend to go to the community radios and even national radio stations and so on and so on. All that just to bring the awareness as a starting point. Individual consultants covered, it is a whole spectrum from suppliers of goods, works, routine online consulting services up to consultant services. Everybody is welcome, everybody ought to be involved, and we must all move together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Mr. Maganga has covered almost all the questions. Is there any question that was not answered? Okay. The second question?
Who is funding the 20%? Is it in the budget? Will the budget take care of that?
Okay.
Taxpayers. The very same taxpayer who wants Malawian enterprises to develop will finance that company. Thank you.
So it's our taxes. All right, Councillor Mlenga has just brief comments, and then we will close. My apologies, because of time, we can't take a second round.
Yeah, thank you. There was one question whether they are categorized in the participation. Yes, they are categorized. You are categorized either as a micro enterprise, small enterprise, medium enterprise, or a marginalized group. And
women,
yeah, like women and youth, as well as people with a disability. Yeah, and just to add, to enhance healthcare competition, it's not allowed for one person in one category 1 to compete with a person in category 2. That's why the threshold. There is a whole schedule in the MSME order, which has drawn categories in terms of annual turnover, number of employees, as well as the value of assets that an entity has for it to bid them, whether it's a micro, a small, or a medium enterprise. So it's micro versus micro, small versus small, medium versus sure.
No, thank you so much for that clear explanation. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our panel discussion this afternoon. I know we didn't have enough time, but this is a topic that would have loved to expound more. And normally I would have asked each one of my panelists to just give us some closing remarks. But I'll just ask a quick question and we just do some quick answers, just one word. Do you think this is a good or a bad law? Just good? It's just a word, Mr. Gabindo, right? It's just a word. Good or bad? Yeah? So, the mic, please.
This is a good law, but as I said earlier on, it requires a number of things to be put in place, like, for example, the financing. We have heard about China. China it did develop the financing mechanisms. They didn't start just by giving money to the SMEs, but they had developed a system that was running, and they borrowed money at a cheaper rate in order to achieve their goals. In Malawi, we don't have that, and the two is political will. Is there political will that we can now give an order to an SME that is in the opposition in Malawi?
No.
Do you see one?
No.
Now, unless we grow, we become a bit more stronger, a bit more intelligent than what we were. Change of mindset. I heard that from the Vice President. If we change that, then the political system changes. But assuming me I'm in the opposition and you are giving me an order, do you know what will happen to you? I won't find you tomorrow. You're gone.
Thank you. So that is a good but. There's a good but. Dr. Matesi.
Yeah, I would agree that I think the law is good, but it needs the supporting infrastructure around it to ensure that the Malawians, because here the law has empowered them, but they also need to be empowered in actual fact. And I think access to resources is one key factor, including financing. So I would say good, but the other things.
Good, but Mr. Makanga.
Other than what what my colleagues have said, I would say suppliers, contractors, and consultants. Let's learn to fulfill our obligations. If we can't do that, we will throw you out very, very quickly. So please, let's learn to fulfill our obligations and let's give it a good go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maganga and Mr. Chimuti.
Yes, it is a good law from the SME sector. Let me say that this law has excited us incredibly. What we love most is that we've seen that other sectors of the economy or other departments are now importing, for example, micro standards, the financing sector, all of them are now coming and we are talking to them just because of this law. So it's a good law.
Thank you so much. And Councillor Mlenga, I know you are working on the regulations already, but yeah, good or bad?
Yeah, the law is good. However, I would like to concur with the previous speakers. All have talked about the environment within which the law intends to be implemented.
Right.
So, as a lawyer, I'll take it from legal perspective as well, that there should be correlative law reform on MSME and IBM. Because we can have this law, but if the tax law is not modified to complement this effort, the effort will be in vain. If financing law on MSME is not done, then is not changed to suit this endeavor, it will be a vain attempt. All in all, maybe we should adopt what other countries have done. Since this only touches on preferential treatment on procurement, maybe we can have a review of laws that have a bearing on this, so that we should have a broad-based kind of economic empowerment, not just on procurement.
Right.
I think that can help.
Thank you so much. The panel, a big hand for the panel, which was not able to just say a word, but everyone came with an explanation. Thank you so much, Councillor Mlenga, Mr. Chimuti, Mr. Makanga, Dr. Madise, and my brother, the far end, Mr. Kapito. Thank you so much for the engagement. I hope we have all picked one or two lessons from there, and the work is still on. Let us continue to engage and work on the things that have been highlighted as areas for improvement. So the law is good, but remember that the law is good, but, or the law is good, however. Let's work on the buts, let's work on the however. Thank you so much. I am Teresa Temwekandanga, and I hand you over to David.